Thank you. Thank you, sir. We welcome you, ma'am. So Dr. Susmita Samantha is the Pro-Vice Chancellor in KIIT Bhubaneswar, Orissa. Ma'am has been the Professor, Registrar and Director Admin from 1996 to 2019 in KIIT. Thereafter, she served as the Professor and Pro-Vice Chancellor of KIIT University since 1996. Ma'am has done
Thank
his...
You, Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Very welcome you, ma'am. And Dr. Sasmita is going to deliberate on organizing support system and services to rural students and diverse student cohort. Thank you for gracing the occasion.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. And the most respected Professor Rao, who had invited me, and all the due respect to the Vice Chancellor, all the senior functionaries of the university, all the respected speakers, delegates, the faculty members, students, those who are participating in this conference. Since last 1 year, I think perhaps 1,000 lessons have happened in this national education policy. And this discussion is happening starting from the top leadership of the country up to the grassroots level. Even I have attended the sessions with the students, parents of the school students, those who are sending the children to the school. They also wanted to have some idea about national education policy. I interacted with them with context to, I am doing one research on public policy, and my first assignment was national education policy. The third round of review is going on. We 2-3 professors are doing this. One professor is from IIT Kharagpur, and we 2 are from KIIT. Another one person is from State University. So while doing that review, we tried to bring all the stakeholders into the picture. That started from ministries, then ministry related to education, particularly we took them, the education industry, the technical education, and finance. Few ministries we selected and we took them into the purview of this review. Then second, we had taken the policy makers in education, both in central level and the state level. Third level were the faculty, the university functionaries, it's like vice chancellors, registers, then faculty, students, then are the parents. So there are different rounds of reviews, the questionnaire and these things. The 2 rounds of questionnaire, the reviews are over, and third round data we have already collected, and now we are trying to develop a document on review on public policy of national education policy. So while doing that, I found that lots of awareness, number one, and aspirations have been created in each and every level through this national education policy. Of course, I hope the academicians, those who are present here, they must have also attended number of events related to this. It's organized by the national policymakers, the leaderships, state leadership, industrialists, media houses, then educational institution, obvious that the faculties, the professors, they are connected to this, so they have also organized. So while going through those events and those functions, what each one of us must have realized that everybody is having some aspiration. I have found that the software industries are having different perspective. Now they think that because this national education policy has opened up the forums for the students to have their certificates and degrees in staggered manner, maybe they will be attracting the pools, those who will be leaving the institution after 2 years, working for in some niche area, and again coming back to the academic institution, and again they will be interested to connect themselves to the knowledge base. Or sometimes they are thinking, as the internship and the projects are the part of the curriculum, they will be getting many students to contribute in their central research innovations, central research center or the innovation center. So many aspirations have been created in each level. So here we are talking about that how national education policy is addressing the issues of the equality and inclusion. what is there in this national education policy, that everybody will be getting a forum or the opportunities to get connected to the education system. And in this national education policy, the second aspect is that the aspiration of the government for bringing more and more youth to the academic scenario. Their first step is tapping the children at the age of 3, which perhaps while I went through this education policy on that second day of release, perhaps that is the most crucial decision or most important decision taken by this committee, that if the youth is being tapped at the age of 3, then all the youth are getting the opportunity to get connected to the education system itself. And when that person is not aware of that, where he or she is going or what they are supposed to do, and when doing there, I think many such opportunities are there in this education policy, that how it provides the platform to each one of the youth of this country, and also provide the forum for the provide the opportunities for the youth of this country to participate in academic system. So here my focus will be that the different aspects of the strategy, then what are the different goals in this national education policy, and what are the goals and strategies focused for the equality policy. So that will be my basic focus for the presentation. I think you can see my presentation now.
We are able to see.
Able to see, but it's coming in a different mode. It's not.
But no worry, madam. It's okay. No, the earlier only is better. It's a PDF, I think, version.
No, it's the PPT. It's not.
Yeah,
it just got stuck. It's a PPT. We can see that. I think just.
Yes.
Restart, madam. Once again,
Yes.
start.
If we see the type of universities, institutions in this country, we can see that there are now the number of universities in this country, they are increasing, and we are close to 1,000 now. Though it shows 942. So many more universities have been created. Few more universities have been created. And if we see the very keenly observe the pattern of the universities and the institutions in this country, we'll be finding that the concept of higher education system in this country, in the way it has been conceptualized, it has been the focus of the policymakers to focus on certain areas. Like if we see all the institutes of national importance like IITs, IIMs, NLUs, they are focused for a particular kind of education. The central universities, state universities, they are focused for the basic science and social science courses. And coming to the deemed universities, if you see the pattern of the deemed universities and one public institution, that is BHU, perhaps since very beginning, those universities, most of the deemed universities and BHU, they are multidisciplinary universities in this country. I remember that while we started the university in 2004, then many people are coming and asking us that what will be the model of your university of KIIT, as you have established the university, now you have got the university started. What will be your next step? What you will be doing with the starters, and how we will be using the freedom of university for grooming your university into the level as such it can be called as one of the premier institutions in the country. So at that point of time, while the people were asking us about the model, only one model was coming to our mind, that was the BHU, Banaras Hindu University. We are mostly trying to emulate the culture, whatever was being implemented or executed in that university itself. Many of the faculties, the authorities, we visited BHU and tried to learn that how a multidisciplinary university function in this country itself. So that was the first step, how we try to make our university multidisciplinary. And second exposure was there with me that India got the Washington Accord status in the year 2014. And while India aspired to get the Washington Accord status, during that time, the Washington Accord agency asked National Board of Accreditation of India to submit the documents of few institutions, few technical institutions, those who are multidisciplinary and those who are having sufficient infrastructure, as such, they can be taken or considered as the model institution for helping this country to have the permanent membership, because initially we got the temporary membership for 2 years. So during that time, the National Board of Accreditation, they discussed with many institutions in this country, many premier institutions in the country, and what they also found that according to the criteria of National Washington Accord, only the deemed universities are qualifying to be projected as the model institution. So initially they had shortlisted 3 institutions in the country, and through that processes, of course, we all went through very rigorous process, and through that process we could understand that how a multidisciplinary institution function and what should be the concept and what should be the connecting link between the courses and the programs and the schools run by one multidisciplinary university. So that was the first step. And coming to the national education policy, if we keenly observe the objective of national education policy, the whole policy revolves around 4 to 5 concepts. The first concept of national education policy is providing equal opportunity to all. Second one is the autonomy. Third, autonomy in each and every level, starting from the grade 1 up to the university level. The autonomy has been given to all the stakeholders, the students, the faculties, the university authorities, and the policymakers to take the decision in the process of education. The third one was that freedom and the flexibility and the opportunities to interact among the courses, or developing a culture of multidisciplinary education. That is the third one. And fourth one was whatever we had learned from the report of Radhakrishnan. He had mentioned in 1915 University Grants Policy that committee document, that sports, culture, and education, those 3 sectors should come together for grooming the youth of this country. So in this national education policy, the sufficient avenues have been created to bring the culture, the sports, and education together. And after that, we find that lots of motivation is there. Lots of policies have been made by Government of India for bringing the sports into the purview of the universities. The national games conducted just last year by Government of India, by bringing, I think, around 17 sports activities into one forum. That was one of the major initiatives by Government of India to show the youth that now government is focusing on sports and education together for development of the youth. That was the good one. So in national education policy, if we see one after another, first we come to the key strategies for the school education. Then we see that early childhood care, then foundational literacy and numeracy, what is there itself, then curtailing the dropout rates and ensuring universal access of education at each level. The types of initiatives have been taken by Government of India. In the first level, they have focused on language and nurturing the children in the language they want. Second level was bringing the skill into the purview. The student, those who don't want to continue for the higher education, they should learn certain skill and they can go and they can engage themselves in different economic activities itself. Then third one was reducing the curriculum content and all. Then fourth one was how to make the learning experiential. Then empowerment in each and every level. And for the teachers also, different focus was there, starting from the training of the teachers, involving them in the research activities, innovation activities. So many things were brought into that. So key strategies for higher education, if we see, then we can, if we see one by one from 1 to 10, we see that in higher education, the restructuring and consolidation of the institution was number 1.
Madam,
That is the way, yes.
Can you please change the slide? Is it possible? Please reshare it, madam. Stop sharing and reshare, restart.
Stop share and restart. Yes.
Because slides are not moving. Yeah, now it is fantastic. Yes, madam. Thank you and sorry.
No, no, it's fine. It's fine. Then key strategies for the higher education. The number one was the institutional restructuring and consolidation in higher education, because as I said that initial focus of our national leadership was focusing on different discipline, doing excellence in a particular field, and grooming the manpower in a particular field, focus to go for the in-depth study in a particular area itself. But slowly, as per the requirement and whatever we see the international scenario, the global requirement, now we realize that the restructuring of the whole education system, higher education system, is very much required. And the first strategy was institutional restructuring and consolidation of the university system or the higher education system. The second one was optimal learning environment and support for the students, that how the holistic multidisciplinary education system can support the students for a holistic education system. I can give some examples that, of course, now in most of the premier institutions, they follow the same strategy. In my university also, we have made the system that each one of the students, they have been given opportunity to take the minor from any of the school existing in the university itself. Like we are having 30 schools, even the healthcare students can take the courses from law. In IPR, they can take the law and healthcare law. Then law students take the courses in forensic from School of Medicine. The law students take the courses in cyber security from the School of Computer Science. Computer science students take the courses from neurosciences, those who are working on IoT and particularly on neuroscience area. They take the courses in skin and BD, those who are doing some scanning activities and involved in some activities. So that sort of opportunities have been created. The second is the internationalization. Third one is the student activity and participation, how the relationship among the students can be maintained properly. So different type of cultural activities, the avenues should be created in the university. That sort of advisory is there. Then financial support for the student, those who are not well off for providing the fees for the different institution. The third strategy is for the motivation and energizing the faculty members through training, through different innovative programs, through different schemes of funding for the research and innovation, establishment of foundation for the research. The fourth one was the equity and inclusiveness, how to bring the people of different strata into the system itself. I come in detail in that. The fifth one is the teachers' education. Sixth one is the reimagining the vocational education in the way it's being done, how it can be done in a better way, particularly bringing the vocational education of higher level of learning of level 9 and 10, 8, 9, and 10 defined by National Skill Development Council into the purview of higher education. Then strategy 7 was focusing on quality academic research in the field through NRF, that National Research Foundation. Eighth one was transforming the regulatory system. Ninth one is curing commercialization of education, and 10th is the effective governance and leadership. And coming to different goals, also whatever strategy I am saying, all the goals are revolving around that, starting from that holistic education, those we had defined for our research purposes. And coming to the equality strategy for national education policy, the first policy of University Grants Commission, while you go through the documents of the university, first line they write that university is open to all. That itself is the first equality policy of this nation, in the way we visualize for the education. The second, as I have already spoken, that tapping the kids at the age of 3, each one of the youth born in this country, they will be tapped to the education system. How many times they will be there in that system, how they will be nurtured, how they will be connected, that comes in the second. But at least the vision is there, objective is there, tapping the kids at the age of 3. The third one is teaching to be done in all the vernacular, national and international languages. That for first 3 years, the student, those who are coming to the school, the teaching will be at the language, whatever the child and teacher is comfortable. That means that will help the students and the teachers to get connected to the system, because we all know that if anyone is learning in mother tongue or mother language, mostly our emotions are involved into that. And today whole world has understood, at least after this pandemic, that wherever the involvement of emotions and souls are there, only the excellency can be there itself. Without the emotions, in the absence of the emotions, there cannot be any excellency. So the focus of this national education policy, teaching the children in their own language for initial 3 years, I think it will be one successful measure for bringing more and more children into the purview of education and to stay in that system itself, to stay connected to that system itself. The fourth one is stratification at each and every level to include the economically or socially backward youth. That will help them to be in education system, because what we find, if we keenly observe the dropouts rates of this country, we find that 50% of the dropouts are there after the class 8. From class 8 to 12, 50% of the dropouts happen 8 to 10, and other 25% from class 11 and 12. That 8 to 10th, that dropouts happens because at that point of time, the children of economically backward students, they become capable enough to engage themselves in different economic activities of the family. So they go away from the school, get engaged there itself. So they don't want to continue the study further, because they know that if I'm studying for next 3 years or next 5 years, I'll be getting a high school certificate. And after that, if I read for another 3 years, I'll be getting a graduation certificate. And they always calculate that whether they'll be able to providing that much of time for learning a subject, whether that opportunity is there with them itself, or learning a skill outside the education system and engaging themselves in economic activities is much more beneficial them. So they have to opt between the two. But here the system developed here that from class 8 itself, in the purview of education, some skills will be taught to those youth, and up to class 12. And in higher education level, if they are leaving after 1 year, the diploma will be giving. If they are leaving, a certificate will be given. If they are leaving after 2 years, then diploma will be given. Then that means that sort of flexibility may motivate them to get engaged with the education system itself. And whenever they are coming back, want to continue, then they can convert that diploma into the degree. That will be a very big help for the so economically backward students itself. The fifth one is provision of new avenues for continuous learning. We find after this digital revolution in education, the continuous learning will be given utmost importance in the academics itself. So coming to the university system, whatever has been asked to me, that how in an universities the services and the coordinated can be organized, as such more and more rural students can be engaged with this. With this, I would like to say that I belong to KIT University. This KIT University, of course, today it is one of the institute of eminence in the country. With this KIT, we have established another one school, Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences, where this KIT takes the responsibility of teaching those 30,000 children from KG to PG. We teach all those indigenous tribal children. We enroll them in standard 1, and we ensure that each one of the students, those who are leaving the campus, they are going with the higher studies, the job with them, or some type of skill for engaging themselves in entrepreneurial activities. Those 3 things we ensure there itself. So our honorable founder, Professor Achyutananda Samanta, who is now known in this country as the social entrepreneur or in the globe and he has made remarkable contribution in the field of social services. What he had conceptualized while he had established KIT and KISS and made all of us understand, those who were working with him since very beginning, that my basic objective of establishing KIT and KISS together is to provide the services to the human being. And at that point of time in 90s, while we are struggling about that, struggling for a quality educational institution, there he conceptualized KIT, which will be offering the quality academics to the youth of this country. Second, he conceptualized KISS because in Odisha, it's the tribal dominated state, and 1/4 of the population in the state of Odisha are the tribals. And during 90s, perhaps there was not that many policies are as it is today for the tribals for their development in this country. So those tribals mostly they are staying inside the jungles, in mines areas, in minerals areas where many industries were coming. They are digging the mines, and they were being affected in many ways, starting from their social in their social space, in their healthcare space, even the education space. Most of them are away of the mainstream. They are staying in the jungle, working for those industries, and they were doing their own job in their own way. So he wanted to start that KISS itself. So we started both the organization together, KIT taking care of the KISS for the tribal students. So while doing that, what we found that while in the beginning we brought those tribals from those jungles to the school, many questions were there from many policymakers, many people, those who are working even in international organization, that if those tribals are coming from the jungle, participating in academic processes, educational processes, what will happen to their culture, and how we are motivating them to get connected to the social mainstream and helping them to stay connected with their own culture itself. That was the question raised in each and every level. And what we had conceptualized, not only we brought those tribals from their respective native places, but we knew that if we are bringing those tribal indigenous people from the native places and we are bringing them to the purview of education, those parents also will be asking us many questions, and to keep those children connected to the education for 15 to 20 years will be very difficult for us if we don't develop a cultural ecosystem in the institution itself. So what we did in KIT and KISS, we tried to, particularly in that tribal school, we tried to build up the houses, build up the cottages as it happens in the tribal areas. And we tried to celebrate each and every festivals, whatever the indigenous people celebrate in their areas itself. So that was our first step. As such, in every month or in every fortnight, some indigenous or tribal festivals were celebrated, few cottages were built up. But with that, to get them connected to the subject, because the faculties present here, you must be knowing that each and every tribal group, they are having a different dialect. As we are having the tribals from 60 different categories, so 60 tribals are having 60 different dialects. So bringing them, teaching them in any language was not possible on our part. So what we did, we tried to bring the high school children of that area, maybe 5 and 10 in each and every language. And we had given them the responsibility that you have to mentor the children from class 1 to 3 in your own dialect and slowly convert them into the vernacular language of the state, that was Odia. So in that way, every 30 students were having 3 mentors. And those 3 students of high school, they had 1 teacher mentor. So in that way, we started our activities to connect themselves. First was culture. Second was this one, the language. Our third initiation was that I was also studying in the state university in commerce and management, and many people must be studying in different institutions. We all will agree that always in each and every Indian university, the sports champion is a tribal boy or a tribal girl, most of the universities. So while we tried to bring a policy in place, what we did, while our number was so huge that around 5,000 to 10,000, 5,000 students, then we increased to 10,000, then we increased to 15,000. Then what we did, we developed an ecosystem. We tried to tap that talent in the tribals itself. We tried to bring around 20 sports events into the institution itself. And we brought the coaches from international level, those who are best in many fields. We brought the coaches in rugby, those tribal boys, tribal boys, because KIT is pioneering rugby in this country. Second after rugby, second was Kho-Kho. Third was archery, because those tribal people are very good in archery and this is their unique talent. The fourth one was athletics. The fifth one was different physical, different vocational activities like tribal paintings, the tribal culture, tribal art, those things. The sixth one was chess. We brought the chess to this tribal school in little bit of later time. So we brought all those sports into this institution and tried to ensure that the students are getting connected to the activities they are interested for. As the number was huge, we found that the many students are being interested to get connected with different sports. And as a result of which today, we are having around 2,000 players, those who are working in different national games in the country, and many students are playing in ASEAN, the Commonwealth, and even the KISS students have achieved the world-class rugby twice. One is under 14 for the boys, another one is under 14 for the girls. Those school children got the World Cup rugby, one perhaps from London, another one was from some other country, but they could make it. That means bringing the equality policies, that only putting them in committees, only motivating them to get engaged in certain activities. Sometimes we find that sort of strategy does not work. So we have to keenly observe that while we are making the equality policy in place, what are the engagement system we are developing. As such, those engagement system can connect to the emotions and passion of the students and the faculties in the institution itself, and they'll be getting the opportunities to get connected with automatically or naturally. So that natural connections make the place different. So that was the number one. Second was the one is that in our governance system, as usual, I think many institutions must have done that, starting from the board of management up to the academic review committee, the disciplinary committee. We wanted to include the students from each and every category of the students, and in each and every level of students. Even, of course, we maintain the gender equality everywhere. And as they are there in different committees, so no doubt they are the part of the decision making process. So according to the requirement, the special forums are there for those students. As I said, we observe the different festivals of different category of people. In KIT also, we are having the students from 30 states. We are having the students from 50 countries. So in KIT University also, we celebrate many events related to different states, as we celebrated in Odisha, as we celebrate the Dasara and Diwali. We celebrate the function of Chhath from Bihar. We celebrate Lori from Punjab. So as the students are there, so we do many activities. They are inside the campus. As such, each student can get the opportunity to get connect to the system emotionally. And as the students are there from 50 countries, they are the international days are celebrated. The Foundation Day of different countries are celebrated in the way we try to connect them. And different functions are organized for the students for that. And while doing their few human values courses, also we wanted to bring into the formal education. We are having a school of yoga. So yoga becomes the, I can say that now it's the connecting point for all the students. We have made yoga compulsory for all 30,000 students in KIT. So the courses on human values, the human consciousness and yoga, those type of courses have been developed. Then fifth one is the development of infrastructure. As I said that for the physically challenged people, for the international student, they need different type of infrastructure. The international students which are there in the university, they also need different type of infrastructure. Suppose we find that when the students are there from African countries, they need different type of ambience, different type of food, different type of taste inside the campus itself. So in that way, the infrastructures are being developed and the facilities have been created for them. They are having a different, though we see that the good relationship is happening is being established with the Indian students and the international students, then also keep in mind that how their culture, their taste, their passion can be taken into consideration. Next is the development The equality and diversity policy, we are having a very good equality and diversity policy. Because of that, though you are having students from 30 countries, 50 countries and 30 states, there is very less indiscipline activity, or there is the feelings of differences among the students. That is, I can say that is very much absent. Then before 10 years, what we did when we found that we are getting students from all the states of this country, we tried to conduct the campus placement for recruitment in NLUs. So in that way, you could get many faculties from many states, because as we conducted the campus interview, of course, KIIT has grown drastically in last 11 years from 2010 to 2021. And during that time, almost 70% faculties are recruited in the university. And we tried to see that the faculties are there from each and every state, and the equal presence is there from almost all the states. Of course, many 30-40% faculties will be there from state of Odisha, as we are there in the state of Odisha. But we see that many faculties are there from the outside. And after that, while initially we started getting the foreign students, of course, we started in 1997. From 1998, we got the foreign students. So we made the policy that how we can recruit the faculties from foreign institutions in this country. But we found that before 10 years, that sort of flexibility was not there. There is issue of getting the visa for the employment in this country. There is lots of issues and the processes for getting the visa, at least for the faculty jobs. So we try to connect with the faculties of the international universities in different ways. Like we invited them to conduct workshop in different subjects for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. In that way, we tried to connect with them. And then now, of course, after this COVID pandemic, we all are open and we are able to conduct the online classes in association with different foreign universities. Though we have signed MOU with 174 universities across the globe, now we find it's much easier to get connected. Of course, now we are signing MOU with different premier institutions in the country, all big universities in the world, that for offering different courses, electives from those universities, from Harvard, from Stanford, from other universities. So that policy has been put in place both in academics and also in non-academic side. Our 500 students every year since last 5 years, they are going every year abroad for 1 semester abroad program. So flexibility is there in our system, how the credit can be transferred from those institutions and they can get the degree. So that also provides the opportunities for our students that they can think in a global perspective. Maybe because of that, now we are one of the strategic partner of International Association of Universities, and we are contributing substantially in their advisory services for developing the international strategy for different institutions. That is also there. So through this exchange program, we find that not only the students are exposed to different international culture, but they explore the opportunities as such they can get the scholarship for higher studies in those countries or in those universities. So many students, as being the professional institution, the students in 100, they go abroad for the higher studies to different international institutions, can be 700 to 800 every year. So then is the recruitment, we brought the changes in recruitment policy, and also in our pay packages for the international faculties, the different type of changes were made. Then prompt redressal and grievances system is there in equality policy. Then coming to the curriculum and bringing the equality policy into the curriculum itself. While we talk about equality policy, mostly we talk about reservation, we talk about how the presence will be there from each and every group in each and every committee itself, how we can help those people to participate in decision-making process. But I think in academic institution, the curriculum is most important aspect, and the curriculum design itself can open different avenues for the children of different strata to come and study there. And that contributes substantially for our equality policy. And first, I can say that focus on skill development and employability. When we build up our curriculum itself, Now, particularly in professional education, and of course now in social education and basic science education, the skill development and employability is the major factor there itself. I have 5-10 minutes more. I will finish in 5-6 minutes.
Continue. Okay. Yes, madam, please.
So, yes. So while we design the curriculum, we focus in 3-4 areas. First is the core of that discipline. Second is with that core, we see that what are the new development in that area. 20% weightage is given to the niche area. Suppose we are offering the courses in BTech Computer Science, we are designing the curriculum for BTech Computer Science. But if we see the employment opportunity in BTech Computer Science, we have to focus on AI, we have to focus on IoT, we have to focus on machine learning, we have to focus on data analytics. So we find that among the courses of computer science, 20% weightage is being given to the niche area, while 60% weightage is given to the core developing the core competency in computer science itself. So that is one. Second one is proper training for the trainers. As I said, that the teachers, in the way I was taking one course. I went for one course to USA, the academic leadership program that was around 3 weeks in 2016-17. There one paper they are teaching us on equality. So while they are teaching us on the equality policy and equality system, there was a course on communication. While in communication, they are teaching us equality. They are saying that whatever sentence you are writing, in the way you are uttering the words, there itself, you can see that all those words are gender neutral. All those words, the sentences are race neutral. So in that way, you have to conceptualize your thought and present it with proper languages and literature. So up to that level, also people are thinking of. So while we train our teachers, that as we get the students from different countries, different level, as I said, we take the students from indigenous category in KIT itself. Our 5% seats are reserved for the KISS students. Apart from that, as per the Government of India policy, the whatever reservation is there from for the indigenous people, like 7% for tribals, 15% for scheduled caste and others. So whatever reservation policy is there is Government of India. All reservation policy, most of the reservation policies are followed by us. So we train our teachers how to use the languages, how to teach the students, as such it can cater to the need of each and every individual in the class itself. That level of equality training happens with the teachers. Then third one is the curriculum design with flexibility to give equal importance to the regional, national and international issues. While we design the curriculum, we see our target audience, who are the students in that group itself. And while we talk with the students, normally we have opened different opportunities to talk to the students in Chai Pe Charcha. In every fortnight, every week, the teachers interact with the students. Every fortnight, the heads interact with the students. But like university authorities, like us also, we interact with the students of each class at least twice in a semester. So in that way, we try to understand that what are the target audience, what is their aspiration. And if we categorize them, we find that the students are there and their aspirations are regional, national and international level. Like some people want to serve in their areas itself, in their village itself, in their district itself. Some people can go somewhere nationally, some people can go to the international universities. Of course, for different courses, the different level of students are there. So we try to bring all those aspects into our curriculum. Like I can say that for the indigenous students, we have designed a course on community development. And we find lots of opportunities are there in Panchayat Raj department for those indigenous people to serve in the Panchayat level. Because those students, though they don't want to go to the metro, many students we find they don't want to go to the metro and work there itself. So in international, as I said, we offer courses on niche area and nationally on different aspects also. Then fourth one is coming to the curriculum design. We find that in the curriculum itself, we try to incorporate a system where the sports and culture and human values are giving equal importance. And that also attracts many rural students, and many students, I can see that from abroad, they come here for the studies. And as I said that as for the statutory requirement, we are having different committees and cells to the address to the grievances of the students of different communities, like indigenous communities. For the foreign students, different communities are there. There are the gender cells are there, those who work on the gender issues and all. And safety security committee is there to look after them. And one equality, diversity, inclusion committee is there, that they see that the students of different level, different strata, they are present in this university as we envision them. And those are the initiatives, diversity and equity, that we have tried to develop in last few years, and we are also having a sustainability cell in the university, those who work on this diversity and equity policy. As I have consumed all my time, I don't have much time. So, these are maybe because of that, in even sustainable development goals, as KIT has come up as the Impact University, we have adopted around 10 panchayats and converted many villages into the smart villages, and no poverty, no zero hunger, then healthcare, well-being. We are running around 4 COVID hospitals in the state itself. We have treated 15,000 COVID patients in those hospitals till now. So many SDG goals we are fulfilling. Maybe because of that, we have got a good rank in Times Higher Education ranking shortly. But I think all the higher education institutions, if they are bringing the equality policy into their curriculum itself and trying to connect to the aspiration of the students, then only we can achieve the equality goal, whatever all the higher education institutions are envisioning. And in this national education policy, as it is focuses on multidisciplinary education, as it gives lots of importance on flexibility, tries to bring lots of flexibility in the education system itself. Now each one of the institution is having sufficient opportunity with them, sufficient scope with them to bring that perspective into the curriculum. So that would be my focus, that if the equality can be brought into the curriculum itself, then we can see some changes, some visible changes. Of course, we have tried and trying to bring, maybe everybody also will be bringing. So this national education policy is the aspirational policy for all the academicians and all the policymakers in this country. And we all are aspiring to see that our youth will be doing something great in this world. Of course, today our youth, perhaps the Indian youths, are doing predominantly present all over the country, all over the globe, and they are being accepted very positively. But lots of scopes are there for the growth. Now we are working in different countries. Maybe those Indian youth in coming days, they will be accepted as the leaders in different fields and working in different developmental sector to accommodate others and to help others to get employment and to grow. Thank you all.